AM 1050 WLIP. There's something about a train. There's something about a train.
Now's the time to see the country through the windows of Amtrak. With our low all-aboard America fares, you can travel to over 500 destinations for just $150 to $250 or less round trip, with stopovers along the way.
All aboard America. All aboard Amtrak. Yes, that's the late Richie Havens. He was at Woodstock. Did you know that, Kim?
Yeah, and I hear Woodstock's coming to Simmons Island soon, right?
That's right, Tribute Island. But that's for another day. What can I say? Several years ago, Amtrak utilized the vocal talents of Richie Havens to sing the praises of train travel. Now, ask most any rail aficionado, and they'll tell you there definitely is something about a train that's magic. And then again, there's air travelers who have stories to share that have been less than magical. However, if your travel destination is on an Amtrak route, you just may find our next guest, Lisa Bates, to be of interest to you. You see, Lisa is the author of a new book entitled Beyond the Rails, USA Cross-Country Train Travel, How to Plan the Trip of a Lifetime. And Lisa joins us now. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So now, where's home for you?
Home is Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
I don't think there's an Amtrak station there.
There's not. Closest Amtrak station for us is Boston.
Mm-hmm. That's how many minutes away?
It's an hour at least. Actually, Cape Cod is, for us, we're halfway between Boston and Providence. There's a station in Providence, Rhode Island. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so it's a fun book to read. Was it fun to write?
It was exceptionally fun to write, yes. Took 2.5 years, but it was definitely well worth it.
Okay, so what was the impetus or the genesis to write this book?
Originally, the impetus to take a train trip really stemmed from frustration. I call it our happy accident. We wanted to take our family of 5 to California, and the flights back in 2014 were just skyrocketing. So I thought there has to be a different way to do this, and a few Google searches later, I stumbled upon this USA Rail Pass offered by Amtrak. So my first time on a train in the United States, I dragged my family of 5 over 7,000 miles. And we never looked back. We did it 3 more times.
That's awesome for you.
But I mean, growing up, did you ever take a commuter train, or was this really your first train experience?
This was definitely my first train experience. I had actually been on a Eurail trip years prior, back in college.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been on, the MBTA we have here, typical commuter type experiences, but I had never been on Amtrak.
Isn't there a song called First Train to California?
If there isn't, there will be. Lisa will write it now.
Right.
There is.
I think I better stick to books.
So, singing isn't your forte, huh, Lisa?
No.
All right. So, a family of 5. So, I'm assuming that if there's a spouse, that there's three kids in this trip.
There is a spouse and three children. They were actually teenagers, which makes...
Whoa, that could be problematic.
It almost was, but I'll be honest, they loved it. And not only that, my most recent trip, I went with just my oldest. My daughter had time off from college, and the other 2 were jealous. They wanted to go. And
okay, what was the initial reaction, Lisa, when you said, hey, we're going to California, then there's a pause, and we're taking the train?
In 2014, my twin boys were 14. My daughter was 16. She just looked at me, but, we're a traveling family. We've been doing these kind of things for a long time. So,
all right, so
they kind of looked at us like, we're doing what? Okay.
Lisa, looking through your book, I think you and I are kindred spirits in some respect. I got to admit, I get a little impatient with train travel. We've done it, and I enjoy it to an extent.
Right.
But
don't believe her, Lisa.
Oh, it's true. In section 1 of your book, that's my very favorite. Not that I needed any convincing, but you go into why travel and why take the time to travel, and I think that is truly just such an important way to connect with people, and I love the way you kind of framed that.
Oh, thank you. It is, I do a lot of talking about train travel, and for us, it's not so rare for someone, from the East Coast to never have taken a train. because we don't. We only use trains here to commute to Washington, D.C. or New York. That's about, the gist of it. So our New England, Boston area, don't even understand how nice the trains can be, west of the Mississippi, as I like to say. The Superliners and all that. We know nothing about that out here. So when I talk out here, you'd think I was coming from another planet. And we've always put emphasis on travel and adventure with our children. So this was, the most relaxing, money well spent time we got to spend as a family. And we've done a lot of different kinds of trips.
Chicago Union Station is kind of a big hub for Amtrak. And I've talked to people that have traveled the rails, and they say that it's a little more pleasant experience west of Chicago than east of Chicago. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. Yes, definitely the Superliners. I mean, obviously New England, we're very old, have very small tunnels. We have just the single rail mono-level cars, so it's not as exciting. But being on a Superliner, sitting upstairs, being in that, I call it the bubble, but the viewing car. I mean, it's just amazing, and it's far more social. You'll find more people willing to sit and chat and find out where you're from, and it's very relaxed. I think up here in New England, it's more rush, got to get somewhere, got to, be in the city soon, that kind of thing.
I think Kim alluded to the fact that we have traveled by train. We took the Empire Builder out to Montana, out to Whitefish.
And it was great going out there, but I got to admit, coming home,
She was
getting a little impatient.
Yeah. Well, our next train trip was to New Orleans, and obviously the city of New Orleans, and a compromise was struck. We took the train down, but then flew back, and it wasn't. The airport wasn't all that pleasant. Do you remember that? You even uttered for a moment. You said, "Well, maybe we could have just taken the train back." But air travel is just a chore now. Wouldn't you agree?
Come on, it's not that bad.
But it's not part of the vacation.
It is not.
For most people, you get squeezed into that tube. Your knees are up to your chin, and it's just a matter of, for most people, the vacation starts once you arrive at your destination.
Right.
Air travel itself is not part of the experience.
I don't know. I've met some really interesting people on airplanes too, Frank.
I think, I will give air travel the expediency, and that's about it. I just flew home from Los Angeles a couple weeks ago. Oh my goodness. And just what you said, crammed in a seat. I'm a very tall person. The two guys next to me were very large. It was not a pleasant trip home.
Well, you know what, though? Maybe I can't take issue with what you said, Kim. Kim said that she's met some very interesting people in her travel. Our last 10 trips, who has been seated next to you on each side?
Well, you and Brooke. No, actually, was it 2 years ago? I flew to Texas with my sisters, and I sat next to a man who was reading a book that I had just finished reading. So I had a very interesting conversation with the gentleman who just happened to be sitting next to me. It's all of what you make of it.
Yeah, but nowadays, and Lisa, you don't have to agree with me, but nowadays it seems like somebody might get on the plane and start hitting you and dragging you down.
All right, enough of that, Frank.
Well, to be honest, I flew overnight home, and I was woken up by an issue two rows in front of us, where the stewards were trying to calm some very upset passengers. Not sure what it was about. I looked at the guy next to me and I said, "Should we move? Like, is this going to turn bad?" But that can happen anywhere, train or plane. But I think.
But wait a minute, Lisa. I thought only nice people took the train.
I think, overall, we've met a ton of nice people. I think the nice thing about the train is, if it's not a nice person, you can get up and move. You can just go somewhere else, go to the cafe car, go sit in the lounge area, go to the dining car. You have that flexibility that you do not have in a plane.
Right. It's much easier to stretch your legs and go explore.
Absolutely.
Yes. If you're just joining us, Lisa Bates is our guest. Her new book is entitled Beyond the Rails, USA Cross Country Train Travel, How to Plan the Trip of a Lifetime. And in this book, the better part of I would say farther in, halfway through, maybe even farther into it, you select certain cities and give advice as to what to check out. And I thought that was most informative and helpful as well. So Could you share with our listeners just some of the towns and some of the attractions that you found most enjoyable?
Oh boy. We list, over 20 plus cities that we visited in the book. And the reason I wrote that part of the book is it is overwhelming to land in a city by train. You're just kind of dropped off and here's your bag. So I really wanted people to understand where the station was and how to get around. And so we picked, what would be the best day trips in a particular city. And for instance, Chicago became one of our favorite cities just by the sheer location of Union Station. When you get off, you're right downtown. You don't have to drive in. You don't have to find parking. There you are. We run for our favorite deep dish pizza and keep going. But we also, like you, took the Empire Builder out to Montana, except we got off in West Glacier, which is a lot less populated than Whitefish, I can tell you that. In fact, it was sort of the middle of nowhere. There was the Glacier Highland Resort Hotel. Our keys were taped to the door when we got there. And I'll never forget on the phone talking to the owner, and she asked me if I had bear spray. I said,
you said bug spray, yeah?
Exactly. I'm like,
no.
I come from New England. We don't have bears. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. And if there's a bear and all I have is spray, forget about it.
Yeah, it's not like a cat that you spray with the water bottle at home.
Exactly.
Right?
Also, you mentioned in the book that once you get off the train in New Orleans, that station is in kind of a sketchy neighborhood. You wouldn't recommend walking from there at night.
I would not. No, and that's some of the other. I was very honest, I hope, about the places we visited, and because one of the groups that I think of that would love to do this kind of trip are college kids, kids who have time to go off and instead of road tripping it with a car, they should take a rail pass and go. And I thought, would I want my daughter to get off in this station, walk around? Absolutely not. So even though I was with my family of 5, we grabbed a cab, and went where we were going. But in general, I like to stay pretty close to the stations. It just makes things easier.
I'm actually heading out on Amtrak on Friday. I've got my Girl Scouts and myself and a couple other moms, and we're heading down to St. Louis.
Oh, nice. Oh, they'll have a blast.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
And there's stretches now where that train will exceed 105, 110 miles an hour on that route.
Oh, wow. Huh.
I
didn't know that.
You'll see that on a lot of the eastern rails, will you?
No. Well, unless you're on the Acela trains, but those aren't included in the pass.
How much time did you guys end up actually spending with your rail pass? Was it weeks upon weeks or?
Well, originally I thought I would take a 30-day pass. I'm very glad that I chose the 15. That's enough for any trip, and we got a lot into a 15-day pass. So if you do get a 15-day pass, you get 8 segments. And it's sometimes hard for people to understand, but basically every time you get off the train, you use a segment. So whether I took the train from Boston to Providence, which is 50 miles away, that would count as a segment, or I can take the train from Boston to Chicago, which is an overnight, and I'm not sure how many miles, still counts as one segment. So the planning is a little challenging, and we're working on actually an app for that. My techie son is creating one to make it more fun to plan. Yeah.
Well, and if you're doing it in segments, you can actually get away with riding coach instead of getting a roomette.
Absolutely, and that's what we did. That's the most cost effective, especially for a family. And obviously, for me, I was thinking my first trip, my pre-trip meltdown. Am I going to be able to sleep on this train? Is there going to be enough room? And
well, I like in the book you point out that if you do overnight on the train, you're not paying for a hotel that night.
Exactly.
Boy, once you arrive at the hotel, it's going to look like right. It's going to look like the best hotel ever once you get there.
Absolutely. There were some days that we were so excited to see a hotel, and it could be just your basic hotel. But yeah, so and I'll say the sleeping wasn't bad. It was not that was in my anticipation of it. I thought it was going to be the worst thing ever. I think I was picturing airline seats, and it's really substantially more comfortable than that.
Yes, I think that's the operative word, substantial.
Mm-hmm.
The seats there's more there to them, and there's more leg room.
Right, and you can recline without bothering the people behind you.
Exactly.
Yes.
But even a room, at first blush, it may sound a little pricey, but we took a family bedroom for our trip down to New Orleans, and the nice thing is the meals in the dining car are all inclusive with that room.
Which I say, and especially when I'm talking, if you have the opportunity to take a sleeping car, you should do it. At least one segment of your trip, because it's really fun. It's even more social. You have the communal meals in the dining car. And, I took a sleeper car home from Los Angeles in January, straight through to Boston, and I had a blast. I met, it was just the most relaxing. Of course, I was by myself, too, I should mention.
For us, we had such a great, I can't remember what they call him, a room attendant. Errol was his name.
Yes.
The social aspect of it really is heightened just a bit more when you're in the sleeper car.
Absolutely. They treat you like a VIP. You really feel like, someone comes in and turns down your bed and, I'll make up your room while you go eat. I'm like, are you kidding? Okay.
I remember getting up and putzing around, which I'm notorious for, and by the time I decided I better shower, I figured, wow, this I'm going to be the last one in there. This could look pretty sketchy, but it was pristine. The shower was absolutely clean and looked like I was the first one in, but I'm sure I wasn't.
Right.
It's a nice experience. It really is.
It is. I agree.
So now, any more rail trips on the horizon?
I have, just different, we want to continue to add to the cities, and, I have several different ones. We just added actually Long Beach, California recently, and there's some places I haven't been. I don't have anything planned right now, and I also want to do a sort of New England stop. My husband's a history teacher, so he's kind of handy to have along, and I think it would be neat to put together a very, use the pass and hit all the historical sites up this way.
Now, if somebody decides to take one of these rail passes, and I think if you have the luxury of time, what a great way to travel and explore.
Absolutely. Hop
in and hop off. If you're taking the train out to California, and I'm trying to think of which one that is, because there's two trains that go that way.
Yes.
One that passes Winslow, Arizona. That's a good place to get off at the La Posada Hotel.
Okay.
It's in Winslow. It was a Fred Harvey hotel. And I'm trying to remember, was it Union Pacific? I can't remember what rail company took the hotel field, and they took it over and made it an office building. And then about 12 years ago, this architect from Los Angeles saved the hotel and lovingly restored it back to its splendor and glory. Back in the days when you would feed literally thousands of people.
Oh, wow.
3 dining rooms there. And every imaginable star had stayed at this hotel. But there's just so much you can discover riding the rails, such as this La Posada Hotel, which, incidentally, the main entrance to the lobby is facing there's still a station there. Amtrak stops there twice a day.
Oh, wow.
The back end of the lobby faces Route 66, so you're sandwiched with history on both sides.
I just wrote that down because I'm always looking for a unique place to stay, which is what we tried to recommend in the book, versus, all the hotel chains that we're all familiar with. We stayed at the Hotel Menger in San Antonio, which is one of the oldest hotels in the country. And, I even said, even if you don't stay there, I recommend if you go visit the Alamo, it's the hotel next door, just go walk through the lobby. It is just amazing. And the pictures of the people that have stayed there, are...
What's that called, Menger?
I hope I'm saying it right. The Menger, Menger.
That's right.
I'm writing it down.
And I can credit my lovely wife here, Kim. She's the one that discovered the La Posada, and the rooms were very reasonable.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, that's even better.
Very nice. I really would like to take the train out to California. What can you tell me about that route?
Well, the route that you're talking about, I believe, is the Southwest Chief. So it's heading down through into Arizona. In January, our first winter trip, we took the California Zephyr, which is the one that's sort of going straight through the middle of the country, through the Rockies and into Salt Lake City and up into Sacramento. And then you can take, of course, the Coast Starlight down the coast of California, which is just phenomenal. But we had a fantastic time going on the Zephyr in the winter. I remember calling Amtrak saying, okay, does the train run when it snows? I really wanted to know these things. And, they basically laughed. They said, everybody shuts down but us. And I was like, okay.
Well, what about hurricanes, though? Because in your book, you informed me that that route from New Orleans to Florida is non-existent.
Well, that whole section's been wiped out since Katrina. So I'm not sure what year that is, but I think we're talking at least a decade, right?
Right.
Yes, so that section is missing. So we're headed home to Boston. We came up north from there through Atlanta. They do have bus service, I believe, so you can still connect over to that East Coast train that's going into Florida. But we've hit some unusual weather in all kinds of places. I thought the winter trip going up sort of your way, into Chicago, I bought, the best of the best winter gear. And when I got off in January in Chicago, I think it was something like 60 degrees and sunny and no snow anywhere. I thought, wait a second, this is not what I anticipated. And
like when we went to Death Valley, and I had bought 2 cases of water and was prepared for it to be 120, and a cold wave came through, and it was like in the 70s. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what we signed up for.
Where did we buy 2 cases of water?
We bought it when we got there, don't you remember?
Oh, that's right, in Las Vegas. Yes.
I was all set for it, making sure we didn't end up parched in the desert somewhere.
Exactly. Well, then my thought too was, as long as I make it to California, I'll be fine. And we hit the worst weather ever.
Oh no!
Trying to get into California. They had the Pineapple Express come through this January. I don't know if you remember reading about the mudslides, and the drought's over in California. That's how much rain they got. The 20-year drought has ended. we brought the rain. But one of the mudslides did shut down the rails, and we were in Donner's Pass. So there was a lot of jokes about, Donner Party of 8, they had to feed us and bring equipment out to basically shovel out the mud off of the rails so we could continue.
But a lot of those family members never made it.
No. And it's definitely, when you're out there just sitting on a train in the middle of the woods and knowing you can't move, But I have to say, we had a lot of fun. There was a group in my car in the front, group of ladies that obviously had taken a trip together. They were busy emptying the bar. The group that I was with kept saying, you better put this in the book, you better write this. So
much maybe to the chagrin of my lovely wife here, whenever we're in a new city and it happens to be on an Amtrak route, bear in mind we fly into all of these cities, and I always seek out the station. I always got to go check out the train station. Ever been to the one in Austin, Texas?
I have not.
San Diego. Beautiful station, kind of a Art Deco.
In San Diego, California?
Yes.
I have not. In fact, that is on my haven't seen list, actually.
Oh, well, you won't be disappointed.
No, I'm putting a star next to it as you're talking.
And if you pick up Lisa Bates' new book, I can attest to you that you will not be disappointed. It's entitled Beyond the Rails, USA Cross Country Train Travel, How to Plan the Trip of a Lifetime. And, really, getting there is just part of the experience when you ride the rails.
Absolutely. It becomes as much a part of the trip as everything else. So that's what I tell people, that you plan this part as important as, the destination you're trying to get to. And we don't regret any of them. We had a great time.
Right. And unlike train travel, you have that luxury of time to really get to know some of your other travelers.
Absolutely. My kids have met other kids from all over the country. You just learn so much, from just sitting in the cafe car or, up in the viewing lounge. And it's a social environment, chatting is expected, so it's that you don't feel awkward or, people will sit down with you and, where are you headed? You do the small talk pieces, and we've just met a ton of interesting people.
And as Kim would say, you get to see some of the finest junkyards in the country.
You get to see that too. I say you get to see the best and the worst.
Lisa, once again, thank you for joining us, and a great book. It's entitled Beyond the Rails, USA Cross Country Train Travel, and How to Plan the Trip of a Lifetime. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, CBS Network News.